and I'm joined today on our video blog edition by Ujunwa Ojemeni. She's a senior investment associate with All On. Tell us more about what you do.
So basically at All On, I'm the senior investment associate, so I basically take deals from inception through to approval. So I find potential investees, so clean energy companies basically, who are focused on providing energy to low-income households and SMEs. And these companies have to be purely off-grid, so they have to be just providing decentralized energy to customers in preferably low-income areas. Although we've seen that economic clusters like markets have become very important places. So when you deploy solutions there, you actually help to increase employment, productivity, and basically just help to improve the entire economy and potentially reduce poverty. So it's interesting. I also provide support to these investees, so basically helping them, guiding them through their processes, navigating their strategic directions, governance, operational issues, and just working with them overall.
So you're also involved in the project management process?
Well, I wouldn't call it project management, but basically when you invest in a company, so if it's equity especially, then you're almost a part owner. So you actually just work with the company like you would work with your own company, and then just ensure that they're successful, basically. And then in the process of doing your due diligence, it's some form of project management, but you're really just trying to see that every aspect of the project works. So commercially, the technology, everything, it just lines up basically.
Interesting. So I'm interested in knowing what your view of the African energy situation is, and also the energy situation in Nigeria where you come from.
Okay. In Nigeria, it's a very interesting situation. We've had various transitions in our energy life cycle. So we moved from being wholly owned by the government to actual privatization of the various segments of the sector. Just the transmission is still owned by the government.
Okay.
Things have not necessarily worked out perfectly. There's still a lot of work in progress, trying to sort out the various issues along the value chain. But what we've seen is that off-grid and decentralized energy has become a very important part of our energy transition and clean energy. So gas, and then more importantly, renewable energy. So basically, we've seen companies come in, so who are either providing mini-grids, solar home systems to the almost 100 million Nigerians that either underserved or completely unserved. So when I say underserved, they're probably getting less than 4 hours a day of electricity.
Okay.
And it's close to half of the population.
So you're looking at reliability of energy access, not just whether people are connected to the grid or not.
Exactly. It's very important that they have enough hours of energy in a day to be able to do some useful work, to be able to produce whatever it is they produce, or do whatever it is they do, for children to be able to read at night, for women not to have to source for firewood all through the day or night, and actually focus on other more productive things. It's good for their health, it's good for every aspect of life, employment. And so it's been an interesting journey. So I would say that Nigeria is in a very good position now. We have the policies in place. For instance, we have the mini-grid policies, we have policies around renewable energy.
Okay.
So I think we're transitioning very quickly and very clearly. It would be great to see that those policies are actually enforced and that they're implemented properly. That's the point where we are now.
Okay, I like how you bring out the aspect of how energy is a cross-cutting enabler for so many fundamental SDG targets. You talk about energy affecting education, energy access affecting healthcare, in particular women and girls, because those are largely affected. You look at the gender dynamics of energy poverty, so I really like the work you're doing there. Where do you place yourself as an individual in the fight for improving energy access for Africa? I know you said that Nigeria is in a good place, but obviously more can be done. I'd like to believe there's no 100% electrification in Nigeria, so there's a lot more work to be done. Where do you place yourself in that fight for energy access as a young woman in the energy sector?
I think this is a very interesting question. So I'll say two major areas is where I'm focused. First is really helping the clean energy companies, especially the startups, to navigate their journeys, right, through the energy transition. So be able to enter the market, be able to see what business models work, to ensure they are commercial, and basically just guide them through the process. I think it's very important to have African solutions for an African problem. So although we see models like in various parts of the world, I think it's important that our solutions are tailored to our particular countries. So things might be different in Zimbabwe, and they're very different in Ghana, and they're different in Nigeria. So our solutions have to be tailored, and we have to work with the entrepreneurs, the clean energy businesses, to actually deploy those solutions. The second very important aspect I'm working on is really for women in the sector to be able to actually reach leadership positions within the sector. So I recently launched an initiative. It's called the African Women in Energy Development Initiative. So for short, the Awedi Network. So I know that's a mouthful. So,
yes.
So basically it's to connect women in the energy sector, to advance them, to help them develop. So basically we're going to be providing an avenue for more senior women to be able to mentor more junior women in the sector, as well as sponsorship, advocacy for those women to be able to find opportunities and just to promote them and make them more visible in the sector. So I think it's really personal for me, because when I joined the energy sector in 2014 or so, I was like the only other woman on the team. And so it was difficult for me to find female mentors, to just figure out how to navigate the sector, what kind of opportunities are there, what kind of trainings should I go for, what kind of roles, what kind of transitions how can I move ahead within the sector. So I think it's important to have an avenue where women can share their experiences, can help to direct other women as they go through this.
So
careers.
this initiative of yours, is it focusing on women involved in energy finance, which is your field, or are you looking at women in different aspects of the energy sector?
So it's looking at the broad range of the energy value chain. So women, even if it's in the upstream, it could be downstream, it could be renewables, just whatever it is you're doing. It could be technical, HR, finance, whatever your role is. How can you navigate within the sector, and how can you reach the heights that you want to get to within the sector? Can you find people to talk to that understand you, that can relate with you as a woman, and how you're managing the various aspects of your life? Are there people you can look up to and see what they've done, and how can you really just find your way around? So I think it's important to promote women. So along the way, I know a lot of great women in the sector, but a lot of people don't know them. They don't even know
They're not accessible usually.
Exactly. So they don't know the kind of work they're doing. And then for women in very high positions, I mean, it's difficult to reach them, as you said.
Exactly.
Accessibility. So I think this would give an avenue to bring women together, to be able to talk to other women, to be able to be inspired by other women, and then to build their capacity in various areas. So we'll probably do lunch and learn sessions, probably visits to various sites to see what has been deployed, and just to generally engage within the sector, have networking sessions, speed mentoring sessions if necessary.
And I hope your initiative is going to expand beyond the Nigerian borders and also come to Zimbabwe. And you know, it's the beauty of regional collaborations with social enterprises is really amazing, because you find that I can be in the energy sector in Zimbabwe and be mentored by a woman in the energy sector in Nigeria, because of globalization and the use of the internet and things like that. So it's really excited. I'm really excited about the work you're doing.
I agree 100%.
My last question to you is really, you mentioned in your earlier response how you want uniquely African solutions to the African problems. You are aware that Africa has got the energy bowl, the huge bowl story, which means that we have a growing youth population, unlike our European counterparts. What does that mean in terms of our energy demand in future? Also looking at the fact that urbanization is also increasing, and by 2050 we're looking at massive increments in terms of our energy demand. Do you think that the measures we're putting in place to address that are going to work, given that we seem to be mimicking European solutions or American solutions or Chinese solutions to these problems, where we have these uniquely African parameters which are really not a factor in the rest of the world?
So it's very interesting how Africa is transitioning. I would say that although we look at what is done in other parts of the world, I think we also have found a way to adapt it to our local circumstances. For instance, I know in Ghana they have a very high electrification rate, and then so they don't really need a lot of mini grids, and they've sort of expanded their grid instead of using a lot of decentralized
solutions.
Exactly. However, in Nigeria, for instance, we still have a large number of people, even in urban areas, who are still underserved, And then we have a large number of rural people who are very far from the grid and who the grid will not likely reach in a very long time. So what I've seen, for instance, is that when some companies come into Nigeria, they're not bringing the small, maybe solar home systems that maybe worked in maybe some part of East Africa or somewhere else. They come with bigger solutions, because I've noticed that Nigerians are very aspirational.
Okay.
So they want to put fridges on the system, they want to have a TV, they just want to have a lot of things added to the system as time goes on. So we've noticed that even an 80 watt system for a family of even 5 very quickly becomes inadequate. So I think companies are aware that you can't just bring one solution from somewhere else and come and plug and play. You have to actually understand the market and understand the dynamics. And that's an interesting role with the work we do. A lot of times when people try to come into at least Nigeria, we try to work with them to see where we are in terms of our energy transitions and maybe what kind of business models would work based on the unique situations in Nigeria. Another thing I would say is that although sometimes it looks like the energy challenge is very rural, it's a bit far away. As you said, there's a lot of urbanization taking place. True. And so whatever energy was in the urban area is
not going to be enough for the people.
Exactly. So I've seen solutions where people actually bring interesting storage solutions or battery solutions that could actually be used by urban players, or some form of rental. Maybe you rent an inverter.
Pay as you go.
Exactly. Okay. For a few hours. Maybe I'm just coming back from work and I just realized that, oh, there's no light at home and I don't have any other option. Or maybe if you used to use a generator, hopefully you stop using it, and you're aware that you're not going to have electricity, then you can quickly use an app. I know a company that does that. You can use an app to quickly rent an inverter or a battery solution just for a few hours if you know you're not going to have light for, let's say, 4 hours. So I think that it's an interesting situation. It's local, and we can use international solutions and localize them and actually make it work for us.
Okay, thank you very much, Ujunwa, for your time. Very insightful contributions there. Thank you, and thank you so much for your time. I like the work that you're doing. Please keep it up, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.